Hello everyone. Today I'm going to talk on previous part of this section. We have been discussing on syntax. Into that we have seen number of things, clauses, and into that we have divided different parts. Yesterday we saw complements and adverbials. Let us continue the remaining part of this subject verb conquered. You should also be aware that even while the verb decides what kind of a subject it would allow, there is a grammatical agreement between the subject and the verb, which can be clearly seen when the subject is third person and singular in English. Notice the change in the shape of the verbs as we change the subject in the following sentences. Mohini teaches chemistry. She teaches chemistry. Ali and Makul teach chemistry. I teach chemistry. This is an example and subject verb conquered. How subject would be changed if the subject has a third person singular? It will text yes or es, as we know, very well known it. It is very well known to us. And here explanation has given. Let's continue. The verb is in all four sentences above are in the present tense, but it has an affix e or s in sentences a, b, and nothing in c and d. What is the function of the es maker on the verbs? This is es making on the verb signify that the subject of this sentence is third person and singular. This maker is like a reflection of the subject on the verb. This phenomena is known as subject verb concord or subject verb agreement. This phenomenon is known as subject verb concord or subject verb agreement. In English, this concord is physically seen only when the subject is third person and singular. He, she, it. Then it will be added prefixes s or es. So we see that in appears when the subject is Mohini and she because they are third person and singular, but it does not appear when the subject is Ali and Makbul, because even though they are third person together, they are plural. Similarly, it does not appear with I, which even though it is singular, is first person. In other languages, like most of the Indian languages, like Hindi, Marathi, Tamil, etc., you will see a different subject verb conquer make up of subjects belonging to different persons. You can try it by translating a simple sentence like I am playing into your mother tongue by substituting the first person pronoun with the other pronouns. Interestingly, the languages which have a rich subject verb concord system often allow their pronominal subjects to be dropped as the information is already encoded in the verb in the form of concord agreement maker. Let's continue. This is all about the verb concord or agreement, and now we are going to learn another most important part of the syntax, that is the types of sentences or structural classification. Earlier or first video I talked on it. I gave the example of types of sentences: simple, compound, and complex. Already we have come across midway. Let's continue. This is quite easy for you, and you will read it thoroughly twice, thrice. You will able to understand each and every contents. This is not possible to you. Only this video you must go read and find out the most important points from your level. Let's see. You will recollect that in our discussion on clauses, we had stated that the concept of a clause which is made of a noun phrase and a verb phrase is very similar to that of simple sentence, which is also made of an noun phrase and verb phrase. In this section, we would like to briefly elaborate on this. You will notice that we are careful in our previous statement to say clauses are similar to simple sentences. In actuality, sentences are classified as simple, compound, and complex sentences. There are three kinds of sentences. First one, simple, compound, and complex. Simple indicates simple, compound means two sentence combined. Complex, again there would be the subclauses. Let's continue. Simple, compound, and complex sentences on the basis of the type and the number of clauses they contain. A simple sentence is made of a single clause. A simple sentence is made of a single clause, and that is why we had the definitional similarly of saying both are made of an noun phrase and verb phrase. Compound and complex sentences are made up of two or more clauses. Compound sentence and complex sentences are made of two or more clauses. If you take two or more but or etc., you will get a compound sentence. Let us demonstrate this using the following example. He went to the market. He bought some vegetables. Now joining them A plus B. He went to the market. He bought some vegetables. He went to the market and bought some vegetables. Vegetables. This is a compound sentence. Compound sentence means put two clauses in a single word, put together and become a single sentence. That is called compound. In English, whatever the subjects of the clauses in compound sentences are the same, you are expected to not use the second subject as it is understood from the context. Compound sentence with the second subject deleted would read the therefore as. He went to the market and bought some vegetables. The compound sentence with the second subject deleted would read therefore as. He went to the market and bought some vegetables. That is compound. What is the difference between compound and complex sentence? This is very important. So this is compound sentence. It omitted or deleted subject in second sentences. Because in second sentence, if we have two simple sentences that express opposite of preposition, we use the conjunction but as in. If we have two simple sentences that express opposite prepositions, we use the conjunction but. He is a teacher, his wife is a doctor. He is a teacher, his wife is a doctor. Here C plus D. He is a teacher but his wife is a doctor. This is a compound sentence with different subject in each clause. Therefore, both subjects are retained. Here, both subjects are retained. You will notice that both the clauses used in a compound sentence are equal in status. That is, both of them are independent clauses in the sense that they could stand on their own as separate sentences. In the sense that they could stand on their own as separate sentence, all you will need to do is to resupply the subject that might have been deleted in the second clause for reason explained above. Now we are going to move complex sentences. Right now we are going to move another sentence kind, that is complex sentence, until we have been discussed on simple and compound sentence. Simple sentence is very simple, s plus v plus o plus c, and two simple sentence or two separate clause will put combined input and so on and so forth. Let's continue about the complex sentences. However, it is not the case that whenever two or more clauses are used in a sentence, they are of equal status or both independent clauses. This is the situation in complex sentences. I will repeat. However, it is not the case that whatever two or more clauses are used in a sentence, they are of equal status. They are equal status or both independent clauses. This is the situation in complex sentences. In complex sentences, we find dependent or embedded clauses, that is clause that need to support of another clause to appear in the sentence. They cannot stand on their own as the independent sentence. It means it is a principal clause and main clause or subordinate clause. If subordinate clause will not get meaning itself, it is depend on principal clause or main clause. This will be found in complex sentences. They cannot stand on their own as independent sentences. In fact, the types of clauses we saw earlier as noun clauses, adjective, relative clauses, and ad hoc clauses are all dependent clauses. In fact, the types of clauses saw earlier as noun clauses, adjective or relative clauses, and ad hoc clause. Noun clause, adjective clause, and ad hoc clause or relative clause. They are all independent, all dependent clauses. They have a specific function to satisfy in the sentence, whereas the two clauses in the compound sentence have no such functions to satisfy. The dependent clauses are allowed in a sentence to be the subject or object or to modify a noun or such to specify the time, place, manner, etc. of the verb. Any clause which could be introduced in the sentence using a complementizer like that, who, when, because, if, etc. It is always dependent clause. Do you remember that it is not usually the shape or structure of a clause that makes it dependent? You will recollect that we had said that if we remove the complementizer that introduce a dependent clause in a sentence, the clause would most likely resemble a simple sentence. It is primarily the function of a clause and the way it embedded using a or complementary or complements in a sentence that makes it dependent and resultant sentence a complex sentence. It is however possible that sometimes dependent clauses are non-finite, wherein we can say